it's the metal bands, the people behind the scenes that really make the difference. Even the people who set up the stages and the performances and things like that, which actually, come to tell you the truth, a while back when I was in Texas to see Pantera and Metallica, Nine Ice Kills, and Five Finger Death Punch, and the other band, I forgot their name. But what it boils down to is the people behind the scenes are just as important as the people in the band. So please, when you see one of those people, do me a favor, do them all a favor. Tell them thank you so much for helping put on this show. We know that it's really one of those jobs that's not the easiest job to do. And I don't know all their technical aspects of it because I don't know everything. I know a few of them, just a little bit, but not a lot. But there's probably a lot more that goes on into it than just those people. And that's what I'm going to start to talk about is the types of metal that people listen to, or the types of metal that I should say musicians have come up with over the years based on the styles and the feels of the bands and stuff like that. So, like I said before, the creation of the different styles is based on different people's wants, probably different needs, maybe different sounds, maybe has something a little more unique. And who knows, maybe some of the people that have set up some of the stuff maybe helped produce some of that, or the musicians themselves. I don't know. But yeah, one thing is make sure you definitely thank them for it because, like I said, that's what this is all about, the channel, the people, you guys as well. I'm hoping that later on, maybe, just maybe, when I get some live views, when I'm at concerts, I would love to kind of maybe say, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I'm some from the Voice of Metal. Would you like to be interviewed? And then have you gone there to say, what is it that you like about the band we're seeing, right? So we'll see. That'd be kind of cool, right? Be on YouTube with a really cool metal channel, right? Anyway, let's move on. I'm sorry, I kind of get sidetracked with other things, so I apologize for that. Okay, I guess this is the first one, the very and probably the most common is just heavy metal itself. Basically, it's the the father of all the sub genres of types of metal that are out there, and basically, it's pretty much the main core that everything falls under to a point, but each one's a little bit different when it comes to the feel, the sound, maybe the words, the lyrics, or what they're talking about. So we're gonna get into a little bit of that for you, and I got like a list of the types so that way I don't screw it up too much because I don't know all of them. And this is rather interesting. Number two is funk metal. At least this is what's on the list. Number two. It's not saying it's a number two best metal types, but you know, it's a type of metal. Anyway, funk metal basically combines funk and heavy metal music together to infuse them together to make a jazzy, soulful tune, which is rarely heard in other metal genres, is what it says here. I got a little fly here. Go figure. However, unlike the alternative genres, funk metal often utilizes riffing styles similar to the 1980s thrash metal, which I think I have heard that before. It has some unique sounds and characteristics, basically, is what it boils down to. Power metal. Now, this one I'm not really familiar with. I probably have heard it, but I just didn't realize what it was. Developed in the 1980s, power metal is characterized by fast, high pitched vocals and clean, distorted noise. Okay, perhaps the most melodic, easy flowing subgenre of metal. It's also much more upbeat and positive than other metal genres. Okay, speaking to inspire, encourage, and empower, which makes sense. The power metal, which is kind of cool. So it's fantasy aspects of the world. Therefore, basically, it's more like theatrical, epic, and emotional, and impactful sounds in the style and the music. Oh, here's an example. I didn't know this before. On the list, it says notable is Camelot, Powerwolf, Rhapsody of Fire, and Dragon Force are a couple bands that do power metal. Now, black metal is really a lot different than some of the other ones. Are a little bit more deeper and darker tones. It features a high distorted instrumental, fast tempos, blasting beat drumming, and shrieking vocals. This is kind of interesting. It first appeared in the 1980s, thanks to bands like Hellhammer and Celtic Frost and Venom. Celtic Frost is really good, by the way. I've heard them, and I think I might have heard some of the Venom songs in Hellhammer, all three actually. Mainly because it's upon its inception, black metal was met with extreme hostility from the mainstream audience mainly because it's anti-Christian and iconically classic meso. I can't even say that. I'm gonna skip over that one. But anyway, it's basically it says several black metal pioneers have been linked to neo-Nazism, murder, and church burnings, which is pretty bad. Which I'm not too fond of the hate type things, but hate towards the genre due to this, black metal has dubbed as a satanic metal by critics. So basically, it looks like there are a few different bands. National Socialist Black Metal, Red and Antarctic Black Metal, okay, Blackened Heavy Metal, Blackened Screamo, okay, Black Gaze, Symphonic Black Metal, Viking Metal, and War Metal. Oh, okay, these are derivatives. Sorry, I didn't see that. Several derivatives of the black metal. So I don't know which bands are considered black metal, but I think I know a few. I know Insulter actually recommended a Friends band that is a black metal band that I've talked about before, and I think I actually did post a little snippet of their black metal a while back on the shorts feed. So if you have a chance, go check that out, okay? So you can kind of know what it sounds like, right? Now this is the complete opposite of black metal is Christian metal, which is probably more upbeat, more white, more towards Christians living heavy metal that are Christians, which is kind of interesting in the late 1970s to preach the Christian gospel among heavy metal music fans. That's interesting. There are bands that are out there. Oh, I didn't know Demon Hunter was. Okay, Sweden's Jerusalem, Petra, Resurrection Band. Bands include Demon Hunter, Living Sacrifice, and August Burns Red. Okay. That's the one thing. Speaking of Christian metal, I really honestly thought when I heard the title Lamb of God was a Christian metal band. And then later on I go, okay, maybe it's not so Christian after all. But the original title or the name that they use is Burn the Priest, I think is what they went by originally, is what I found out a while back, which I didn't know. And it's kind of fascinating and interesting that they changed the name to Lamb of God, which I think actually suits them a lot better. I think it's a little bit more, how you say, seems like a name for a band that is going to become bigger than just a regular metal band. You know what I mean? It's one of those type. It's all in the words. Sometimes it's more definitive, I guess. Unblack metal is the same type, is a subgenre Christian metal. Is unblack metal features most of it, if not all black metal's not all of black metal's music characteristics. So basically it sounds like it might be kind of close to what black metal is, but only not. They're talking about promoting taboo topics such as war, instead of promoting taboo topics like war, destruction, all this other stuff. Their themes, their themes of spiritual battle, salvation, and worship, which is rather interesting. I didn't know there was such a big thing on Christian metal, so I might have to check that out to see, or I should say, unblack metal bands, I should say, and find out what they're all about. And those are actually called Crimson Moonlight, Horde, Amished, okay, and Ancestor. I think that's, I hope I said, yeah, Ancestor. That's weird. Okay, different name. Now this one's Crust Punk. That one's something different. A metal subgenre influenced by hardcore punk. Interesting. That one I didn't know. I know a few different subgenres of metal that are out there, but that one's a new one on me. There are basically the bands that are supposed to be like punk style metal bands are Discharge, Dysphere, Extreme Noise Terror, and I don't know how to pronounce that name at all. It starts with Amebix. Ambiguous, maybe. I hope I said that right. I'm very good at pronouncing words. What can I say? Blackened Crust is another type of metal music or subgenre. It sounds like, I guess it might be more of a blackened punk style, maybe. Crust that features black metal elements. Okay, interesting. The term was coined by the band Iker. I can't even say it. I'm gonna have to figure out how to pronounce this. Who also come up with the subgenre. Okay, Gallhammer, a Japanese extreme metal group, was combined with elements of crust punk and black metal in their most recent material. So there is a Norwegian band called Dark Throne who claims that Blackened Crust is an iconic paradox of the two genres. Okay, that's interesting. Now this one I have no idea how to pronounce it, so I apologize. It's Advent Guardia Metal, I think. I hope I said that right. Is characterized. If anybody can basically correctly pronounce that for me, I would definitely love to hear that. But I guess you guys can only type it in, so I probably won't be able to understand it. You know what I mean? I'll have to, maybe have Google pronounce it for me so I know how to pronounce it next time. Anyway, it's evolved out of death metal. It looks like extreme metal and progressive rock and jazz fusion. I think I know what jazz fusion is, but I'm not 100% certain on that one. Fans of this genre are often classified as weird and bizarre, which it sounds like with the description, especially when I can't even pronounce it, are songs that say some feature long, sustained drones of fuzz hums rather than actual vocals and instrumentals. Oh, okay. So it's almost like a disco or maybe Celtic Frost is one. I know of Celtic Frost, so I guess I've been listening to that type of metal and then didn't even know it. Which is rather interesting that I can't pronounce it all. Dog Fashion Disco is another band that actually has this type of metal, and Sun with a double N-O, and it has, I don't know if that's a part of their name. It looks like little, what do they call those hashes that go like this. It's not a bracket, it's more like a curve. Anyway, going on. Death metal. Now this one I am definitely well aware of, and I definitely have loved and enjoyed several bands, and one I know for a fact is Obituary, because my friend actually has talked to me about that and told me all about them. Which I don't think it's in this list, to be honest, of bands that are death metal bands. One of the most common genres of heavy metal is characterized as a deep growling vocals, thick distorted guitars, blast beating drums, alternative picking, and multi-tempo changes for complex song structures, which Obituary is definitely good at, and they are definitely still doing that today, even with their newest album. It is phenomenal. If you have never checked out Obituary, please do me a favor, check them out, and do yourself a favor too, because they are really good. They are phenomenal. I think just the instrumental one that I like is the now I forgot what it's called. It's you'll know what you hear. It's an instrumental that goes doo 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 redneck stomp. That's what it is. I had to play the hum the song or say the song to remember what I was trying to say. Anyway, many consider decadent carcass, sorry, carcass, morbid angels is the pioneers of death metal. Okay, notable bands that influenced the subgenre include Crater, Venom, Slayer, and Celtic Frost, which Celtic Frost is a part of the other one too, so maybe they do a little bit of both. It looks like. I've heard some Venom, and I've heard some Crater, and I didn't know that those two were actually death metal bands, which it's kind of interesting. Um, um, as death metal bands reach mainstream audiences, subgenres will split into more subgenres. Okay, some include black and death metal, uh, me- me- melodic death metal, death and roll, symphonic death metal, and technical death metal. Okay, I might have to Google those and see what bands actually are considered those because they don't have a list of those subgenres or, basically what's below that in death metal types. I do know I know Carcass, they talk about more medical terms, is what my coworkers told me. Which actually I think I've read some of the words to some of the songs, and yeah, it's pretty much what they're talking about. Some of the stuff that's way over most people's heads, or medical terms sometimes. Anyway, moving on. Doom metal is another style of metal. If you don't know, well, like me, that's one I have never heard of that I know of. I'm sure I've heard some doom metal before. Um, Basically, doom metal is one of the most recognizable subgenres of extreme metal music. Okay, well, maybe I have. I just didn't know the name. Basically, as unlikely extreme metal genres, doom metal is characterized as a low-tuned guitars, which I think that's pretty much a lot of them. Slower tempos, deeper and heavier sounds that aims to evoke a sense of dread, despair, impending doom to the listener. Thus, the name doom metal. Okay, Black Sabbath. There you go. Heavily influenced doom metal. So I guess I have heard doom metal. I just didn't know the genre. Into the Void, Black Sabbath, and Electric Funeral are considered some of the first doom metal songs ever written and performed. Okay. Um, then there's distinct variations. It looks as derivatives formed over the years. Death and gloom metal, I guess, sludge metal, funeral doom, drone metal, and stoner metal. Now that sounds like it might be an interesting metal. So I guess that's a yeah, it's kind of part of a doom metal. Okay. Now this one I think most everybody knows what glam metal is. It's more like the hair bands of the 80s. I'm assuming is what it sounds like. Glam metal is otherwise known as the pop metal or hair metal, yeah, just like I just said, is a fusion between glam rock and heavy metal. It first came out in the 1970s with was later being popular through the 80s and early 90s primarily due to the influence of MTV, which a lot of people got into, and they still have some good albums out there, but then some of it's kind of one of those is kind of like, okay, we're done with the glam metal type stuff, but there's still some out there. They're still pretty good. Like Motley Crue is one of them, and of course, like Guns N' Roses and things were some of those. Here we go. Bon Jovi, Poison Rat, and Black Veil Brides. That makes sense. Yeah, I thought Guns N' Roses was maybe they're not. Basically, they're all flamboyant clothing, teased up hair, wavy makeup, heavy makeup with just going overboard with their looks, I guess is what it is. They're kind of reminding me of my kid when it comes to his look, when it comes to getting dressed, kind of thing. Only he's not a glam metal guy. He's more of a hardcore, he's more into death metal and stuff, but he likes all kinds of stuff, though. And, new metal probably sounds like Slipknot, I think, is a new metal band. Anyway, moving on. Folk metal is, sorry, I'm trying to see if I have viewers. I'm trying not to ignore people when they come in the room if they do. Is a non-metal. Okay. Oh, this is for non-metal fans. It's difficult to imagine folk music and metal music as one genre, but it actually surprisingly works, is what they said. Folk metal music is a combination of traditional folk music with heavy metal music. It features traditional folk instruments like violins, flutes, and oh yeah, madrigals, I think is how you pronounce it, as well as traditional singing like Spanish stone Eric. Oh wow, Dutch. I can't even pronounce that either. But anyway, it sounds like it's more kind of Danish and Dutch style sounding folk metal. So you kind of got. I think Blackbriar would be considered a folk metal band because they kind of have that feel to them a little bit. Lyrics are often mythological, historical themes to give the song an ancient medieval quality. That sounds like a Blackbriar. Um, it was basically developed in the 1990s in Europe. Dangerous Games is one of the earliest examples of folk metal. However, the genre did catch up until Skyland in 1990 debuted the album The Wayward Songs of Mother Earth. I think I might have heard this one before, but I'm not certain. Then there's variations of that, including pagan metal, Celtic metal, and pirate metal. Now that would be interesting to hear. Pirate metal. Who would have thought pirate metal? I guess I'm gonna have to check that out. I've had some really interesting styles of metal that I've heard or heard about, but that one's kind of different. Okay, moving on to the next one, industrial metal. This one I definitely know a band that's in an industrial metal band. At least that's what they've claimed. Well, people think they're under, but there are some that are very well known, like Marilyn Manson, Nine Inch Nails, Rammstein, and Fear Factor. So if you've ever listened to any of those bands, you've been listening to industrial metal. So basically, industrial metal is a fusion between industrial music and heavy metal. It's characterized as a distorted vocals, repetition guitar synthesized lines, and artificial sounds to add to it. The industrial metal genre is divided into two subgenres: industrial death metal and industrial black metal. So that way you know. This is kind of cool. Oh, such as Nail Bomb, Meat Book Seed, beginning adding death metal elements to industrial metal music. Nail Bomb I have heard, and I definitely have enjoyed theirs. Meat Book Seed I have never heard, so I'm gonna have to check that out. Not unless that's two different bad Meat Book and Seed. I'm not sure. I think that's one actually the band's name. Meat Book Seed. I'm not sure. Industrial metal is a relatively new subgenre. It was developed in the early years of the 21st century when groups from the black metal scene featured characteristics of industrial music in their songs. Okay. Notably industrial metal. Okay. I've already gone through all that. But Marilyn Manson and Nine Inch Nails has been around for a lot longer. Even Fear Factor and Rammstein have been both. Now this one I definitely do not know how to pronounce. Kaiwa. I think it's Kaiwa metal. I think I said that right. Is the name implies Kaiwa metal is known as a cute metal or idol metal, is a heavy metal subgenre featuring Japanese vocals and idol characteristics. I think it's basically a combination of J-pop and metal. I don't even know what J-pop even is. I know I've heard of K-pop, but not J-pop. The genre first appeared in late 2000s, pioneered by Japanese idol bands like Lady Baby, Baby Metal, Dazzle Vision, It uses multiple elements of power metal and industrial metal, and occasional dips into toes of death metal and post-hardcore. Oh, so their metal is kind of diverse. It sounds like it kind of blends in industrial and power metal, but also kind of gets a little bit into the death metal scene. That's kind of cool. I mean, that's why I like some of the Kiowa metal, I think is how you say it. There are some bands that are from, I think, Japan or Chinese that actually are really, really good metal. I can't remember the name of the band, but if I do find it again, I will definitely put it on one of these playlists sometime in the future because they got some pretty good songs and they're really, really good. Anyway, moving on. Metalcore. This is the one I know pretty well, I think, and I think I know bands that are in metalcore. Metalcore is a hardcore punk and metal. It's characterized as intense guitar solos, blast beating drums, and harsh screaming vocals. Metalcore is distinguished by its half-time breaks and open strings to obtain low-pitched sounds. Okay, subgenres are melodic metalcore, electronic core, mathcore. Okay, that one's definitely different. I'm gonna have to check out mathcore metal for metalcore. Progressive metalcore, deathcore, and new metal. Now, new metal. No, oh, this is new metalcore. So it's not new metal. It's new metal core. So I guess there's a difference maybe between the two subgenres. Maybe. Well, one's a genre, I think, and the other one's a subgenre of that type of metal. Grindcore. I think this is one I might know some. Grindcore is unique. See, I don't even have a list for that other one, the metalcore. There's nobody listed at all that plays that music, so I'm gonna have to find out what bands do that. Grindcore is a unique combination of hardcore punk, death metal, and crust punk. Surprisingly, the subgenre is mostly characterized by guttural vocals, hard beats, and lyrics that focus on violence, gore, and sometimes politics. Okay, so sometimes it's not just the music, but also what they're talking about in their music. Which I know there's quite a few that are probably into vocals. I think maybe grindcore might be Sepultura. Sepultura's maybe grindcore metal, but I'm not certain on that. It sounds like it. Oh, this is interesting. Um, I just saw something real quick. But anyway, grindcore and death metal are often used interchangeably as they share many of the same stylistic components. However, grindcore has much more chaotic. Oh, it's more chaotic than death metal. Most grindcore songs are featured uncontroversial forms of music and lack traditional time signatures. Okay, that's interesting. The genre was developed in the 80s by Napalm Death, which I have definitely heard of Napalm Death, and they have some really good, phenomenal songs. Check them out. Other grindcore bands called Repulsion, which I've never heard of, Brutal Truth, and Carcass, which we've already talked about them before. So apparently they're kind of a grindcore slash, I forgot what the other type of sub genre of metal they're in, but apparently they kind of may either play in between or maybe they have songs that kind of go both ways. I think it's a black death metal is what it was under. Grindcore splits into four major subgenres of death grind, porno grind, which that would be interesting to hear what that's all about. Gore grind, which I'm assuming that's Gorian, like is in gore from the books of Gore. Electro grind is another one. Now this one I definitely know. This one might be Blackbriar 2, possibly. Oh, Typo Negative is one. Okay, Gothic metal. Gothic metal is one that I know has been out there, and people really do know about. They might not know the name of the type of metal it is, but those are ones. Typo Negative, I didn't think was, but maybe it is. Who knows? Oh, hello. Who's viewing me? I'm sorry. How are you doing? Hopefully it's, I don't know who it is, if it's Clover or somebody else that I've met before and I forgot your name, so I apologize. And I think my stream's a little bit slow, so I might not see you type anything if you do type. But please keep watching. Please enjoy. If you have any questions or whatever, or you just want to say hello, feel free to join in. moving on to the list, Gothic metal is a Gothic metal fusion of Gothic rock, doom metal, and dark wave. It features dark, heavy tunes with loud guitars, ethereal synthetics, aggressive lyrics. Gothic metal doesn't have a specific style sound. It can be slow, it can be crushing, or you know, being a symphony type orchestric, or I can't say it, pronounce it right. Blah, I know what it is. Oh, and overwhelming. Its vocal styles are also quite diverse, ranging from deep guttural growls to intense black metal shrieks. Interesting. Early Gothic metal bands like Paradise Lost, Within Temptation, Typo Negative, and Theater of Tragedy. Okay. I'm going to have to check some of these other bands out. See, I'm starting to learn stuff myself just by doing this. Okay, now this one, I have no idea how to pronounce it at all. And I'm not sure. Oh, it's New Wave of British Heavy Metal. So it's an acronym of that title. So you know, so it's NWOBHM style of metal is known as, and it says that as coined as in the late 1970s, a British journalist Gina Barton used the acronym to describe the emergence of new heavy metal bands across the UK. Okay, the fusion between punk rock heavy metal, however, unlike punk metal, which is a subgenre of thrash metal, infuses intense of punk rocks from the 1970s heavy metal. This resulting in aggressive instrumental guitar solos and fast saw-sounding vocals. Okay, interesting. Oh, here's one, Iron Maiden, which we all know and love, right? And Saxon. I've heard of Saxon stuff, and Def Leppard. I'm not much on Def Leppard though, but you know, if you're into Def Leppard, hey, more power to you. It always sounds quite the same, but Iron Maiden is definitely an awesome band. I always have liked them a lot. They're really good. And Saxon, I'm pretty sure I've heard some of their stuff. Okay, thrash metal. Yeah, I still got 9 more to go. I'm trying to read these to explain these because I'm learning stuff myself on this. Trash metal. Sorry. Trash metal is the earliest form of extreme metal music, characterized with complex guitar riffs, fast tempos, aggressive vocals. Thrash metal is intense, electric, and heart-pounding energetic. The genre stems from various of other metal subgenres, including speed metal, hardcore, punk, and that one that I couldn't pronounce just a little while ago. Oh, here we go. Thrash metal. This is one right here. This band is a thrash metal band, which I thought so. Or speed metal is what I thought. Maybe thrash and speed are the same thing. I'm not certain on that one, or close to it. Basically, Slayer, Megadeth, Metallica, Anthrax are considered the big four of thrash. On the other hand, Tankard, Destruction, Sodom, Creator are dubbed as the big. The four of the European region. Okay, which I have heard. I know I've heard Sodom and Creator and Destructure. I think is how you say it. Before thrash metal has 3 subgenres. Sorry, the crossover thrash, Tuneric thrash. I hope I said that right. Groove metal. This one I have heard of. There is a metal band in Russia that they consider themselves a groove metal band, which they're really good. I cannot say by soul what the name of the band is because it's in Russian, kind of. So it's hard to pronounce. Starts with a B, Borjak or something, I think is how you pronounce it, but I'm not positive on that. Crossover thrash features more hardcore punk elements than thrash. For this reason, they're often dubbed punk metal. Okay. Tuntric metal is heavily influenced by the one that's an acronym. I'm not going to get into all that. Thus, less trashy than regular thrash. It incorporates muted riffs and raspy vocals and quick bass drumming. Okay. Finally, groove metal is known as a power groove or neo thrash. Features bluesy solos, slow thrash riffs, harsh vocals, and heavy drum work. Okay, that makes sense. Now this one I'm definitely familiar with, speed metal. That's the one. Okay, speed metal originated from The was it the new wave of British heavy metal and thrash metal together was heavily influenced by hardcore punk musicians in the 1970s and 80s, which pretty much I think there's quite a few of them that are into that or part of that. As the name implies, speed metal is all about speed. It's fast,